Students, let's start with the kinematics. So it's one of the topic of the IIT. So here a few definitions are there where we come across. The first one is rest. When we say object is in rest, if object does not change its position with respect to stationary object. So what is stationary? Stationary means the object which is at rest. If the object is not changing its position with respect to object at rest, we call it is at rest. Now motion. If the object change its position with respect to a stationary object. Now here when it is changing position, we call object to be in motion. If it is not changing its position, we call it to be in rest. What is distance? Distance is path covered by an object. If suppose an object is traveling from one point to another, so this is called path. Path traveled by an object is called distance. Now speed. Speed is distance traveled by an object in unit time. So here time is given unit, that is in 1 second or 1 hour. What is the distance covered by an object is called speed. So speed is having only magnitude but no direction. So we call it as a scalar quantity. Okay. Next, what is velocity? Distance in unit time in a particular direction. So here the distance traveled in unit time in particular direction. For velocity we need to mention direction. So velocity is a vector quantity which has both magnitude and direction. So unit is 5 km/h towards east or north, any direction we need to mention. Now types of motion. Now let's start with next topic, types of motion. So there are different types of motion. What is motion? If the object is changing its position. Now the motion can be linear motion, circular motion, periodic motion, non-periodic motion, mixed motion or random motion. Now we'll come across once again linear motion, circular motion, periodic motion, non-periodic motion, mixed motion and random motion. Linear motion can be again of two types. It can be a rectilinear motion or a curvilinear motion. Now circular motion, it can be a rotational motion or a revolutionary motion. It can be a rotation or a revolution. Periodic motion, auxiliary motion also comes under periodic motion. So these are the types of motion. Now we are going to discuss about examples when we call object is in rest or when it is in motion. So let's start out with few examples to get much more clear explanation. So here all moving things are said to be in motion. The movement may be slow or fast. Anything which is moving, the movement can be slow or fast. For example, if the snail is moving or a tortoise is moving or a rabbit is running, all are example of motion. It can be either slow or fast. Now, some objects show movement without changing their place. That is also called motion only. For example, opening and closing of flower shows the movement of its sepals and petals. So this is also a type of motion where only the sepals and petals of the flower are moving. So let's start with one more example. Rest and motion are relative terms. So what we call relative? Relative means they are interrelated. So here an object may be appear to be stationary in relation to an object in similar situation. For example, if suppose we are sitting in a running train, we are in rest with the co-passenger. The passenger who are sitting nearby us, we are in rest with respect to them. But with respect to the surrounding, as the train is moving, we feel like the trees are moving or the houses are moving. With respect to train, we are in motion. So now we got the two terms, motion also, rest also. So we call it as relative terms. Now let's read out the example. An object may appear to be stationary in relation to an object in similar situation, but the same may be in motion in relation to another object, which is placed in different situations or different locations. Now for this you can use the example which I gave earlier a man is sitting in a train or a running bus. Now definitions related to types of motion which we already discussed. Linear motion. When we call linear, the word itself suggests that linear means something straight. Okay, something which is moving straight. An object moving as a whole along a line shows linear motion. When something is moving in a line. Now the line can be of different types. It can be a straight line or it can be a curve. So here what is rectilinear motion? Now rectilinear motion, it is a type of linear motion where object moving along a straight line and in the same direction show rectilinear motion. So here object is moving in straight line. When the object moves in straight line, it shows rectilinear motion. Example, an apple falling from the tree. Suppose an apple is falling, so it will fall down. So this is a rectilinear motion. Or a child goes down the slide. So child is going down the slide. All these are example of rectilinear motion. Now what is curvilinear motion? Object moving along a straight line may take a curve. So here the object is moving in straight line, but it may take curve. This is called curvilinear motion. When there is a curve formation is called curvilinear motion. Example, car moving along a curve on the road. Suppose a car is moving. It is taking a turn in a curve, which is a curvilinear motion. Or a ball thrown away in air takes a curve and comes down. So this is also a curvilinear motion. A ball thrown away in the air takes a curve and comes down. So here these two are the examples of curvilinear motion. Now let's start the second category of motion, which is circular motion. So again from the name we can recognize that circular means something is moving in circle. An object taking round shows circulatory motion. When the object is taking a round, it is showing circular motion. Now circular motion is of two types. We already discussed rotational motion and revolution. What is rotation? So we give the example like earth is rotating around the sun. How earth, if suppose sun is there, earth is moving around the sun, that is revolution, and earth is moving around its own axis, that is rotation. While standing at a place, take a round is rotation. Like we use the spin. So here spin, while spinning the top, it will be at the same place. Like we need to stand at the same place and to rotate. When we are rotating in the same position, it is called rotational motion. Now the next one is an axis of moving fan. So here the fan is moving at the same axis, or whisked spinner. So all these are example of rotation motion. Now revolution. What is revolution motion? An object moving around a circular path repeatedly is making revolution. Now here sun is at the fixed position and earth is moving around it. Repeatedly it is moving, so it is called revolution. In a circular path repeatedly is making revolution. It is different from rotation, whereas the object spins on a point or axis. What was rotation? I told object will be moving at only one point by itself. It is moving around itself. Whereas in revolution, it is moving around another object. Example, a child on a merry-go-round, or earth revolving around the sun. So these are example of revolution. Now, let's have a little note. Different motions at same time. Earth rotates along its axis. So we know that earth is making two kind of motions. So that is, it is rotating itself, which causes day and night. And this is rotation. And the next one, it is revolving around the sun, which is causing seasons. Earth revolving around the sun, this is revolution. Earth is rotating, its axis is rotation. Earth is exhibiting two different types of motion, that is rotation, revolution. So both are taking place simultaneously. Simultaneously matlab same time. Okay, both are taking simultaneously. Now periodic motion. What is periodic motion? The motion which repeats at regular intervals of time is periodic motion. Motion which is repeating at regular interval of time is periodic motion. Like heartbeat, which repeats, like we say that heart beats 72 times a minute. So here it is a repeated motion. Now let's start with another example. So here, pulse of your wrist. That is also the example of periodic motion, as we have the fixed period for it. Now the next category is oscillatory motion. An object passing through the same point while moving back and forth, that is to and fro, when the object is passing through the same point or between the 2 points is called oscillation. Suppose we have a pendulum. Now pendulum will oscillate in both the directions. So it will oscillate to one end, again come to rest to the mean position, again to another end, again it will come back to mean position. When the object is oscillating to and fro, then we call it as oscillatory motion. Now we need to remember, vibratory motion is a kind of oscillatory motion. What do you mean by vibratory motion? Now here the object is vibrating. Suppose a pen is there. So here it is vibrating. When we make certain movement, if it is rotating, we call it as vibratory motion, which is moving object undergoes change in shape or size. While in vibratory motion, object is showing change in its shape and size. Here we have the example, plucked string of the sitar or plucking a stretched rubber band. So when we pluck a string of the sitar or a rubber band, these are the example of vibratory motion. Now the next category is non-periodic motion. When things move suddenly without any regularity. So there is no regularity. Suddenly the movement is started. We call it as non-periodic motion. Example, earthquake and volcanic eruption. There is no fixed period for it. It happens suddenly. So these are called non-periodic motion. Now the next type of motion is mixed motion. So what is called mixed motion? The name again suggesting mixed means many different types. When more than one type of motion at the same time, we call it as mixed motion. Example, cycle wheel possesses both transitory as well as rotatory motion. So how it is transitory? We are moving straight and then the wheel is rotating itself. So it is showing two different kind of motion. One is the straight one, other is rotatory. So it shows transitory as well as rotatory motion. A cricket ball shows linear as well as spin motion. Spinning means again it is spinning itself, and then linear motion, moving straight. So here the different kind of motions are there together. So we call it as mixed motion. And the next one, resultant motion. One kind of resulting in another kind of motion is called resultant motion. When one kind of motion result in another kind, then we call it as resultant motion. For example, wheel of a bicycle rotate about its axis, resulting in the linear motion of the bicycle on the road. So here, because of one, the other is caused. That is, when the wheel is rotating, the wheel of the cycle is rotating. Now what this is making? It is making the cycle to move. So when one movement is causing the other to happen, we call it as resultant motion. Now the last category, random motion. So here the motion without any sequence or direction is random motion. Now there is no sequence or there is no direction. It is called random motion. Example, buzzing bee or a player of football on the field. So here buzzing bee, the bee's wings are vibrating. There is no sequence. When the player plays football, so here he will kick out the football. We don't know in which direction the kicking will done. So these are example of random motion. So hope everyone understood today's class. Get ready with that. Okay, next we'll have the further whatever the next topics are there. So please follow the next video. Please all of you like and subscribe.